Good afternoon. How were your breakout sessions? Good? Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm so glad, and we had a fabulous session this morning. Great panel, fabulous speakers, and we have much more to come, so thank you for rejoining us this afternoon. We're in our new releases section of our program today. And we have 3 fabulous new releases to announce today and 3 speakers to announce them. So first we have Kamla Modi. And Kamla Modi is a research and outreach analyst with the Girl Scout Research Institute at the Girl Scouts of the USA. This is the 100th anniversary of the Girl Scouts, so it's a big celebration, and we're very pleased to have her here. She's the lead author of Generation STEM, What Girls Say About Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And she holds a PhD in Applied Developmental Psychology from Fordham University and a Bachelor of Arts from Rutgers University. She's a former gymnast and a current coach of a girls' high school gymnastics team in New York City. And we have Kitty Didion. Welcome, Kitty. And now in our new releases section. And Kitty is a senior program manager at the National Academy of Engineering, and her portfolio includes the Diversity of the Engineering Workforce program, providing leadership to NAE's efforts to enhance the diversity of engineering workforce at all levels. And we have Mamta Patel Nagaraja, who is one of our NASA colleagues. Graduated from Texas A&M University with a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering. She received a master's degree from the Georgia Institute of Technology and Mechanical Engineering and continued her studies at Georgia Tech and Emory University in biomedical engineering to receive her doctorate in 2007. She works at NASA headquarters managing the Women at NASA project that she will talk to you about today. It's a joint effort between NASA and the White House Council on Women and Girls, aimed at increasing interest in science, technology, engineering, and math fields among young women. So welcome all, and I'm excited to welcome Kamla up to the podium to talk about the Girl Scouts research.
Hey, thank you. So happy to be here. So my name is Kamla Modi, and so I'm here to present Generation STEM, What Girls Say About Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And I'm from the Girl Scout Research Institute. And so many people, we've been around for 10 years, and many people think Girl Scouts has a research institute. What do you research? Cookies, camping, what the new cookie flavor is going to be? And actually, we consider ourselves the expert on girls. We do research on girls' healthy development. We've covered different topics such as leadership, health and wellness, moral values, attitudes, behaviors, media, reality TV, social media, relationships, and now STEM. So we try to cover as many topics as we can on the lives of girls, topics that are important to girls, topics that adults think are important to girls, topics that are happening in the media that there's a lot of attention to. For example, a couple years ago, we did what's called a pulse poll on what happened between Chris Brown and Rihanna, and we got girls' and boys' reactions to that and how that affects them. So we try to keep at the pulse of what's happening in girls' lives, and of course, we try to keep to our academic side too. So there's about 15 of us at the Research Institute. We're part of the Girl Scouts of the USA, which is the headquarters in New York City. And part of us, we do the original research, like I just mentioned. The other part does the program evaluation and outcomes measurement, which assesses the Girl Scout leadership experience. And all the research we do focuses on the girl voice, what girls say, what girls' opinions are, perceptions of different topics, different things going on. So there's oftentimes what adults think girls say, which may not always be what girls say, right? So we always focus on the girl voice. And then that's our webpage down there. So why STEM? We all know why STEM because we're all here for a reason. We know that, we talked a lot about this morning, we know that women have advanced in education and careers but remain underrepresented in STEM. So there's been all these advances over the past 50 years, but in terms of STEM presence in careers, STEM presence in college, it's still on the low side. So we know all this, we've heard lots of stats about it. We know that STEM expertise ties to jobs. We know that the job growth in this country is in STEM. We know that we've had economic crises. We have high unemployment, and we're bouncing back from that. All the jobs, the great jobs that we have in this country, the great jobs that we're going to have in the next 5 to 10 years are in STEM. So girls, pay attention to that. It's not easy to get a job in general, but it's easier to get a job in STEM once you have those skills and you have that background. So, and as we've found from the research, which I'll dive into, is that there's a connection between STEM expertise and making a difference in the world. We know that girls want to make a difference in the world. We heard about that all afternoon or all morning, about girls wanting to do something with purpose, wanting to help people make a difference in the world. Well, STEM can help them do this, and girls just need to know that. Okay, so our research questions, we started this about a year, just over a year ago. We wanted to know what girls thought about STEM careers and STEM subjects. Are girls even thinking about these things? Of course, girls are all taking math and science classes. Are they doing well on them? What is the perception? What do girls and boys think about doing well in science, doing well in math? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is there a competition between being really, really good in math and science and being popular? Is it possible to be both? We talked about well-roundedness. So we wanted to see if STEM is on girls' radar. And if girls are interested in STEM, what factors are encouraging them or discouraging them for those who are not interested? So we started with some focus groups around the country. Anytime people do research, then they don't really know where to start. Focus groups are a great way to start, to ask the audience in question. So let's talk about these things in this comfortable environment. What's on your mind? Let's talk about this, and ask some different questions. So we did focus groups around the country in 6 diverse locations across the US: Seattle, Washington, Denver, Colorado. I'm looking for my slide. Orlando, Florida, Wilmington, Delaware, Austin, Texas, Indianapolis, Indiana. And we got some great data from girls. Some of them were Girl Scouts, some of them were not Girl Scouts, some of the girls were highly interested in STEM, some were not. So it was a really large mix of girls, also a mix in age range as well. And then we took that data and then we said, let's do an online survey across the country, a diverse sample across the country, a nationwide sample of 852 girls. So in total, we talked to 1,000 girls across the country. And for the only difference between the focus groups and the quantitative was that we talked to older girls for the quantitative survey because there were a lot of questions centered around career aspirations. So we figured let's do the high school girls because they have a little bit more of an idea as to what they're going to do when they grow up or what they want to be when they grow up. And so we strived for an equal representation across the board in terms of girls who were interested in STEM and girls who were not. We didn't want the sample to be skewed in any way. So for example, if we happened to get lots of girls who were really, really interested, then we wanted to really have a good scan of what girls in this country are thinking when it comes to STEM. We found that girls like STEM. 74% of girls are interested in these fields. So enough of that stuff that we're hearing about how girls don't like math, and math is too hard, and girls don't like science, and they can't touch these subjects, and it's not reachable, and it's just not on girls' radar. Well, guess what? It is. The data has said so. Girls like STEM. 74% of girls across the country, before we even assessed interest and non-interest in girls, overall, we determined 74% of girls are interested in STEM. Now, any of you guys who are familiar with the research know that there's a common statistic that people talk about is in middle school, the interest in science and math tends to plummet, tends to go downhill. Why is it middle school? Different reasons for that. Maybe because girls are starting to become interested in boys. Girls are starting to think about different things that they weren't thinking about before. Maybe it's peer pressure. Maybe it's lots of different things going on, right? But regardless, these are girls who have passed the middle school age. They're older than middle school. They're 14 to 17, and they're saying that they're interested. So yay, very good. Okay? What do girls like about STEM? What do girls like about science, technology, engineering, and math? They like to understand how things work. They like the process. They're inquisitive by nature. They like to ask questions, solve problems about the world, just the way young children like to ask their parents. So why is this? And then why that? And anytime you get an answer to something, there's another question. Why? Girls are inquisitive. They like to ask questions and find answers to them. They're interested in how the natural world works. They like doing hands-on science projects. And you'll even see on the right column the non-STEM girls, the girls who have identified with not being interested in STEM. Even those numbers are pretty high too. So even a girl who says, nah, those subjects aren't really for me, they still like these things. They still like asking questions, solving problems, doing puzzles, understanding the world. So it shows that STEM concepts don't just apply to science and math and technology and computing. They apply to everything, and they're interesting to all girls. So these are areas we can tap into. Okay, so the more sobering stats follow now. So we found, similar to the 74%, 81% of girls who were interested in STEM say that they are interested in pursuing a STEM career. So that's great. That's a really high majority saying that, okay, not only do I like STEM subjects, but I also am interested in these STEM careers. And it should be noted that the way we defined STEM careers was, in terms of science, it was the natural sciences, the life sciences, the physical sciences, engineering, all kinds of engineering. Computing was computer science, information technology, software development. And math was all math fields, all math careers. We did not include medicine. And medicine, we geared that toward more the clinical side, just to make sure that distinction is clear. So the medicine side, where you're a doctor or a dentist or a clinician or a veterinarian, that was not included in our definition of STEM, although certainly there are relationships between those fields. So let me get to the rest of the stat. 81% are interested in pursuing a STEM career, but only 13 are saying it's my first choice. So we're seeing a big, big gap between, yes, there's interest, these careers are interesting to me, but much fewer are saying this is my first choice. Why is that? We have some ideas as to why. One of them comes in terms of exposure, which we're going to talk a lot about here. Exposure to STEM activities and careers is low in general for girls. Girls are aware of gender barriers. We talked a lot about that this morning. Women are aware of gender barriers. There are gender barriers in the field, and girls are very aware of them. Girls are well-rounded, which in some cases can be a bad thing. Girls are well-rounded, interested in all subjects, not just science and math. I think it's a great thing that girls are well-rounded, but in terms of making STEM their #1 choice, there are all these competing opportunities and competing interests. So those are some reasons why there's that discrepancy between the 81 and the 13. So this is our exposure slide. So you remember seeing the big graph before, or the big chart before, where there was a lot of interest in the process and the hands-on and the asking questions about the world. Now when it comes to exposure, knowing someone in a STEM career, knowing a woman in a STEM career, doing hands-on activities and having experiences when kids were younger, that's a lot lower, even for girls who are interested in STEM, or right around the 50%, if not lower. So I want you to pay particular attention to participation in STEM activities outside of school, such as camps, after-school programs, etc. Only 36% of girls who identify having interest in STEM have had that kind of experience in the past. And of course, much lower in all cases for the non-STEM girls. So this is where we need to pay some attention to. Okay, gender barriers, we know they're there. Girls know that they're there. 57% of all girls say that girls their age don't typically consider a career in STEM. So in general, it may be on girls' radar, but they kind of know it's not on other girls' radar. That's the stereotype. 57% again of all girls say that if they went to a STEM career, they'd have to work harder than a man to be taken seriously. So these stereotypes do persist. We also found, so this is kind of the well-roundedness, the chart that you're looking at now is the top 4 choices among girls who say that they're interested in STEM. They don't include any STEM careers. Again, you'll see that medicine healthcare is rising to the top. Lots of cross connects between medicine and STEM, but we didn't include medicine as part of STEM. STEM, again, were those typical science, technology, engineering, math, very discrete careers. Arts and design has some connects to STEM, but again, you don't see engineering rising to the top there. You don't see life science or natural science or math rising to the top there. So there's all this interest, but the first choice is medicine, healthcare. Second choice, arts, design. Third choice, social science. Entertainment, of course, entertainment's rising to the top. Even among STEM girls, even among girls who are interested in STEM, 60% of girls are saying, I could go for entertainment career because that's pretty cool and that's all the media that I've been watching and I'm really exposed to a lot of that. So think about what girls are exposed to and what they're not being exposed to. So here's where we can really make a difference. Girls want to make a difference in the world. Girls want to help people. That's why girls and women tend to go into teaching and to childcare and to veterinary sciences and medicine and those kind of very high-level fields, but they know that they're helping people directly. I just listened in on a great panel with these NASA student ambassadors, and they were talking about how their work in computing, in engineering, in chemistry is helping the world and is making the world a better place. So definitely talk to them if you haven't yet, because girls want these things. Girls want to make the world a better place. They just don't see how STEM careers can help them do that, and that's our next step in this work. So like I said, we strove to have the sample of the girls that we talked about to be half interested in STEM and half not interested. So we could really figure out how to kind of, if there's a good model out there for girls who say that they're interested in STEM, how do we replicate that? Girls who are interested in STEM are great students, no surprise there. High achievers, they have very high goals for themselves. They have better STEM exposure. Again, we know that exposure in general is not super high, but it's better than girls who are not interested. And they have great adult support to pursue STEM, all topics that we've already covered today. And then those, in turn, relate to higher confidence. Girls who are interested in STEM say that they're smart enough to have a career in STEM. They have that confidence to say that I can do this. That's the difference right there. Okay, so in terms of adult support, parent support, we looked a lot at the focus groups kind of showed us that girls who have fathers who are in engineering careers or STEM careers, that's a great model for girls to consider. One girl said, my father's a chemical engineer. I know a lot about his career. I know that it's not what people think it is. This is something I want to do. And my father tells me every day, this is something you can do. So girls who have fathers or parents in these careers, they have great role models. And you can see by the data, girls who are interested in STEM, chances are that their fathers are very interested in STEM too. Rates are also high for mothers too, but for some reason those fathers are really standing out. And we know the reason. Fathers are more likely to be in these careers. Fathers are great role models for this. I'm gonna speed up a bit because I have a couple minutes left. Okay, we talked to African American and Hispanic girls. They were about 12 to 15% of our sample apiece, and that's the national representation of these groups, and we created a story for these ethnic groups. Basically, the interest is high, the confidence is high, all the internal aspects are very high to pursue these fields. In some cases, the interest in STEM was even higher for African American and Hispanic girls than Caucasian girls, something that a lot of people don't know. The drive to overcome obstacles was very high, despite having some lower attributes, lower academic achievement, lower exposure, and lower adult support. So there's something going on where maybe you don't have all these supports or maybe you don't have all these positives in your life, but you still have a lot of intrinsic interest. You still have this desire to overcome obstacles. So what's going to happen in 5-10 years when these girls grow to be adults? We don't know from this data, but we know that adult support has to be risen to the top. Exposure has to rise to the top. So it's very encouraging to see that there's this, so you see African American Hispanic girls are more aware of gender barriers in STEM. So you saw that 57% earlier on. These girls are even more aware of gender barriers in STEM, and the barriers that they were aware of were even worse, like sexual harassment in the workplace. They're aware of these things, but the interest is still high. That's something to pay a lot of attention to. Now, will all these girls, 70-80%, go into STEM fields? Probably not if they see that the gender barriers are so high. We have to address that. We have to address that in the workplace, in colleges, in high schools, in schools now. I think I pressed the wrong button. Okay. So, summary. Girls are interested in these fields. There's no doubt about it anymore. They aspire to these careers. This data shows that this could be the next generation of girls to enter into STEM fields at a higher rate than ever before, provided that we increase the exposure to STEM, provided that adults learn to talk to girls the way they talk to boys. I read a study recently where mothers talk to their sons more in numbers. They use numbers much more with boys than they do with girls. Why is that? That shows that mothers are able to talk about numbers and they feel comfortable enough with STEM characteristics, but they're only doing it with boys and not with girls. So that needs to change. Adults need to encourage girls as early as possible to engage in these fields and to have interest in the natural sciences, and go out into the backyard and to count the number of bumblebees and count the number of bugs, and learn how to bake things in the kitchen, and that involves chemistry. So there's so many things that adults can do to get girls interested. Girls are interested in STEM, but STEM is not number one. We have to change that. Girls want to change the world and make the world a better place. STEM careers can do this for them, and give them a great paycheck too while they're at it. So, in conclusion, girls need more exposure, and girls need to understand how STEM can help change the world. They need more experience in STEM activities. How do you get experience? How do you grow this interest if you don't have any chances to do it except for sitting in a classroom of 35 students and watching the teacher talk about math and science? You have to do these informal activities after school. You have to be part of Girl Scouts and do these different activities. So they need more experiences so they can gain confidence, offset stereotypes, and they need more support, especially for girls of color. So I just want to quickly talk about what Girl Scouts is doing around STEM. Girl Scouts is a great venue for developing these STEM attributes. It's all girls. It's a comfortable environment. There's that natural mentoring process because the girls all work with volunteer adults. The Girl Scout leadership experience focuses on girl-led experiences, learning by doing, rather than just sitting in a classroom and listening and, taking notes. Lots of cooperative learning. We talked about that this morning, too. There's lots of badges in Girl Scouting that are tied to financial literacy. So we know girls are selling those cookies. Well, you know what? They're learning financial literacy. They're learning business skills. They're learning entrepreneurship. There's badges in innovation, science, technology, and more. I'm just going to wrap this up. And so our research publications online. I don't expect you to write that whole address down, but please be in touch with me. I also have some handouts for you all too on the tip sheets that we've done, the report summary, the PDF. We have lots of different tools for different audiences. We're big on outreach at the Girl Scout Research Institute. Please email me for more information. My email is kmodi, K-M-O-D-I, my first initial last name, at girlscouts.org. Please contact me. I'm very excited about this research. I'm very excited to be here. And I'm going to close it and pass it on to Catherine Didion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kay. So how many of you in the audience are a Girl Scout or were a Girl Scout? How many of you sold cookies? How many of you still eat cookies? Good. Want to make sure I'm in the right audience. Just want to make sure. Good afternoon. I'm Kitty Didion, and I'm with the National Academy of Engineering, and I'm going to be talking to you about our website, Engineer Girl. So this is our website information. How many of you know about the National Academy of Engineering? Anyone? Okay, there are a few in the front of the audience. So the academies are interesting. They were started in 1863 with a congressional charter signed by Abraham Lincoln. It was a time of great turmoil and a lot of debate during the Civil War time where it was decided that the country needed good technical advice, but it'd be best if it wasn't part of the government. So we are technically not part of the government. The National Academy of Engineering was formed in the 1960s, but we provide leadership and technical advice, and we focus on the engineering profession. So within the academy, obviously it has concerns about current engineering, but we also think about what's the future of engineering, and how do we get more students to consider thinking about engineering. And the Engineer Girl website is really focusing on middle school and high school girls, but particularly middle school girls. Anyone want to guess why middle school? When people decide their career, possibly about half of students actually do make a decision about studying engineering before they go to college, half in college. But for those of you who are maybe a little closer to it than I am, in middle school is usually one of the first times when you can take elective classes, right? Which means you can start choosing what math level you get to take, what science. No? You have no choice in classes? Okay, so should we talk to your principal? Well, often in middle school, maybe not at Howard School, students often can elect what classes they want to take. And what we've learned is often students don't know what some of the career pathways are and how by not taking certain classes, they're going to find that there's certain careers that are going to be much more difficult for them to think about pursuing. And we just happen to be one of the top rated sites on Google for girls in engineering, and we're very proud of that. We had last month over 30,000 visitors to our website, unique visitors. We have a lot of aspects of our website I'm not going to share with you, but I'm going to encourage you. We have a gallery of women engineers who are all willing to answer questions, and we have an Ask an Engineer where you can post it, and we have a lot of fun facts and things about what you can study in order to pursue engineering. But what I want to focus about today is our essay contest. Has anyone ever heard about the essay contest? Oh, a few hands. Okay, well, our essay contest is every year. It's open to boys and girls, grades 3 through 12, and we pick a topic that we think highlights the importance of engineering, but you might not think about it immediately when you think about engineering. So this year's topic was on food and engineering. So how many of you ate lunch? Good. Name one item in your lunch that you could talk about food and engineering. Doritos, exactly. Potato chips. Think about how did they get those Doritos in the bag without breaking them all? That's an engineering problem. What's another one? Maybe from lunch. I'm sorry? Cookies. How do you all get them the same size? Or maybe if you're having them, you have all this one has raisins or all this has chocolate chips and there's only one chip in that cookie. You're not going to want that cookie, are you? So there's a lot of having to do with food and engineering. And so that was the topic, and we had a lot. We just read the essay entrance this past week, and peanut butter was big. Think about peanut butter and engineering. Tomato sauce. How do you make tomato sauce? Chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate here? Oh, no. We'll work on that one, too. But think about all the ways that the food you eat every day has some aspect of engineering. And you can see the other topics up there that we've had. But the idea is just how you think about engineering in ways maybe that you haven't really thought about it. So what we did last year, our contest was on survival, and we did a survey after it. And what we did is we asked the students who participated in the contest on the website to get a sense of, did it change a little bit how they were thinking about engineering? So this is for the people in the audience who want to get a sense of how big our respondents are. It's roughly not quite 600, and I'm going to focus on the high school and middle school respondents. So what we were trying to do is, this contest is a very small activity. It's an essay contest. You don't have to build anything, but hopefully helps you think about things differently. And what we're trying to say is, does it change a little bit maybe how students see engineering or how they think maybe about engineering careers? And do they then share that information with their fellow students? So that's really what we're trying to find out. Okay? So this is what we learned. So what we found out is that, and this echoes very nicely what Kay said, it's a different group of students. It's boys and girls, and it's those who participate in the contest. So you have to recognize it. But what you'll see actually, that girls are interested in engineering, and this is not STEM. And I think, as many of you know, there are fewer young women studying engineering in college, even though women are the majority right now going to university. Only roughly about 20% of them are studying engineering. And what we found out is, if you can look, is that it actually did have an impact on the girls who were saying, maybe I might be interested in engineering. And that was good news, because that's exactly what we're trying to do with this contest for boys and girls. So then what we said is, so now that you've looked at the contest and the website, we wanted to find out some more information. And do you see those little notations up there that says, Dear Life, I would like to? Well, all for the young women in the audience, that's exactly what you can do with engineering. Did you know that you can explore through engineering careers? That you can make a difference in the world? You can create, you can design? How many of you want to be independent and have money so you can travel? Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't the same as the chocolate group. How many of you want to have a sense that you've made a difference in your community? How many think that you have a new idea that would have a good impact and would help people? You can do all of that with engineering. And that's part of what we've been trying to do with the contest. So once we saw that this helps students think a little bit about it, we were thinking, okay, so you're thinking a little bit more about engineering, but let's thinking about now your choices for college. So we asked them, to what extent had it changed their views in terms of something they'd learned about engineering. And we found is for the girls, to yes and somewhat, over 85% of them reported that the website and essay had changed how they felt about engineering. So if I ask the students in the audience to close your eyes and imagine what an engineer looks like, what would you say? Are they tall? Are they short? Do they look like you? No? Yes? So part of what we're trying to do is say engineers come in all shapes, all sizes. Some of them have dogs, some of them like cats, some of them like chocolate, some of them don't like chocolate. And what we're trying to say is that engineering has a whole variety of different careers. And what we found is that the contest helped them to think a little bit more about how they felt about engineering and therefore maybe how they felt about pursuing a career in engineering. Does that make sense? And then I broke the data down below there for high school girls and middle school girls and high school boys and middle school boys. And then the other thing we asked is then, okay, so now that you're thinking about this, would you think about becoming an engineer? And you can see that still more young men than young women in most cases think about becoming an engineer. But that maybe I'm not sure about engineering. Think about that. If we could just help a fraction of those young men and women to consider engineering careers, we could double the population of engineers we have in the US. And why is that a good idea? How many of you have a cell phone? Okay, does anyone not have a cell phone? There's probably. Okay. How many of you have ever used texting? How many of you have used GPS? How many of you have a device that you watch movies on or videos or YouTube? Who created that? Exactly. And think about all the things that you want to create in the future. So exactly what we're trying to say is there may be things that you want to do. We have videos on our website talking about mechanical engineers designing shoes for triathlons. Why? Because with triathlons, you go into water and to land. So you want shoes that can go into water and land and dry quickly. We have videos showing engineers looking at environmental problems having to do with water and potable water and having safe water. So what we were really trying to do is say, let's help you think a little bit about engineering. But one of the challenges we have to do in terms of thinking about this is, how do you then, if you're interested, where do you get your career information? So I think one of the challenges we have is if we look out into the public domain, often the messages are mixed. Have any of you ever shopped at the store Forever 21? Okay. That store last year had a T-shirt for sale. Do you remember what it said? What did it say? Allergic to algebra. I actually sold a T-shirt in pink saying allergic to algebra. I hope none of you bought one. Oh, good, good. Okay, just checking. And part of what we have to do is we have to engage the community to understand that what we think about engineering may be very different in terms of the opportunities and what we want to do and the ambitions that we have for ourselves. So one of the things we're looking at is, so what are the mechanisms and how we can engage our students? So how many of you, when you want to contact your mom, text her? Yeah. I have a son at university. He never calls me. He texts me, hey, Mom, laundry's coming home. Hey, he's at school. Hey, Mom, I'm hungry. Are you up yet? When he's home from spring break, which is this week. So I'm one story above him. But he is on his phone texting me. Have any of you done that? So part of what we have to think about is, so if we have these messages, how do we engage students to think about what are ways that we can do that? How many of you are on Facebook? How many of you go to YouTube videos? All these ways. So these are things, frankly, that the National Academy of Engineering hasn't really used in a lot of the work we've done and what we're trying to think about. So I would love to hear from the students in the audience about some of the things we should be doing better. So the last thing we wanted to look at is coming back to the website. And what we found is that 64% of the female students said they would revisit, and 72% said they would tell others. And that's what we want to do. We have to share this information. We want to figure out how we can help in terms of disseminating it. Hopefully some of you can go back to your classrooms and talk about some of the things you've heard today with your other students who aren't here. You can maybe go and take a look. When you want to learn something, where do you go? Do you go to a website? Do you talk to your mom? Do you talk to your teacher? Google. Well, all those places that you go, part of it's thinking about to what extent can the Girl Scouts and Engineer Girl maybe give you some more information that you can help look at. And what we learned from this is two things I want to share with you very quickly. Is the topic is very important. We want to pick a topic for our contest that is broad enough that engages. So our topics tend to be more broad than what you might normally assume for engineering. And the other thing is it's really important to look at outreach efforts. So a lot of our contests, it always starts in the fall. It always ends March 1st. The winners get money, a certificate, and their picture on the website, and they usually get some press in several papers. And we try to do that before they leave school for the school year so that their friends and teachers and parents can see the fact that they've won this award. And part of what we also try to do is to think about how we can engage others in promoting the information about engineering and engineering careers. So those are some of the things we learned. The other thing we learned, we have this section, open comments, on the survey, and the students really said, okay, if this is an Engineer Girl website, why can boys enter the contest? And others would say, well, you know what? It should be called Engineer Kid. And what we decided is that we have to stay focused on our target audience. We want to encourage more young women to consider engineering careers. We want to help all young men and women. We believe a lot of the work we do does help them, but we're really committed to encouraging more young women like the women in the audience today to think about engineering and engineering careers. So we have a new website that's going to be redesigned this summer. We have 170 young women who are on our focus group work. If any of you young women are interested, come see me. I'm sure we can work with you and get your input into the design and what we should have on the website. And it will be operational come September 1. Thank you very much.
All right, my name is Mamta Nagaraja, and I'm here to present to you our Women at NASA project. But if you will, how many of you have heard of Women at NASA? Great. So what I'm guessing you may not have heard of is how the project started and the real meaning behind this project. So if you will, I'd like to take just a couple minutes to tell you about the project. In 2009, President Obama and his administration established the White House Council on Women and Girls. And the purpose of this council was to partner with other federal agencies and to create projects and programs that targeted young girls and young women. And it's for the whole purpose of today, everything that we've been saying, that Kitty and Kamala have been saying, and that is to encourage young girls to enter STEM fields. And the reason we have just pounded into your heads is still in today, it is 2012, and only 25% of the workforce in STEM is represented by women. And why is that important? Well, I will be the first to tell you that it is not important because I want to rah-rah women. This is not a Shaka Khan song. It is not because I want to stand up here and tell you, I am a woman, hear me roar. That's not the reason. The reason is if we want to cure cancer, or if we want to go to Mars, or we want to find alternative fuels, we have, as a society, we have to tap into every single market. That means men, that means women, that means every diverse brain out there has to join together if we're going to cure these maladies that have evaded us for years. We declared the war on cancer, 50 years ago, and we still haven't found a cure? There may be a reason for that, and that reason may be we're not tapping into the markets as deep as we should. Yes, we have made progress. As Lori said earlier today, we have made tremendous progress. I started school in the late 90s, 98, and I was one of 5 women in my aerospace engineering class. And in 2007, I graduated from school. In biomedical, there was over 50% women. But if I went over to aerospace and mechanical classes, which I still had to take as a biomed, I was the only girl. 2007! I mean, that is ridiculous. I was the only female in my class. We have got to change this. So, back to the point of Women at NASA. The whole point of it is to allow these women at NASA who have gone from, all walks of life and created a career for them at NASA, one of the leaders in technology and in space science, and have gone into these careers. It is possible. We want to use these stories to show you women and girls in this audience and out there that it is possible. It doesn't matter what hardship you've had to overcome. It does not matter. You can do it. So we've created these 32 stories this year, and we are very excited to unveil them to you today. And you can see the website, and as the website gets scrolled through, you'll see the pictures of these 32 women, and they represent all of our field centers as well as headquarters. And I have watched all of their videos many, many times because I'm quite obsessive over things that I do, and I love them. I mean, I recognize the women who have come today to be with us the minute I saw them, and each of their stories, we have women who survived Hurricane Katrina. One of them was the only one to have a house when she went back to work in our office. We have women who, they became a mom as a teenager, but she didn't let that stop her. I mean, she went on to work for NASA. I mean, it's just some incredible stories. So, I hope that you will go to our website, see some of these stories, and I hope they will encourage you. And I hope that you will, more importantly, share them with somebody, your teacher, your sister, maybe your niece, and even some of your nephews, because we don't need to just encourage the young girls either. I know they're our focus, but I think young kids in general, we need to steer them down the right path. So I hope that you will watch these videos, and I'd like to show you one, just to give you an idea. And she is Mary Esfandiari from Goddard Space Flight Center, and instead of telling you about her, I will let her tell you about her.
I had a perception early on that you had to be brilliant. To be in astronomy and be in physics, you had to be a straight A student, and it had to come naturally. But the secret is, it doesn't. What you need is resilience and persistence in order to pursue your passion. My name is Mary Esfandiari, and I work here at the Goddard Space Flight Center. I've always had a passion for space. Even when I was younger, my father bought me a telescope when I was about 10. I just loved this telescope. We went out in the backyard and we looked at the moon and we saw the ridges in the moon, and I love that, and working at NASA was the dream job. I'm a senior executive and I run a division. It's an exciting business to be in. I always look forward to the next opportunities, the next missions NASA's going to do, the next way that the space communications and exploration can help the science missions, and the next way that we can provide for the United States new technologies and new visions into our universe and our solar system, and even into the space weather. I think my greatest accomplishment is really being and contributing to these teams, whether it was developing the flight software or being a part of the science data analysis. That's been my accomplishment, is being part of the NASA teams. I'm in the Navy. I'm a Navy reservist. I'm a commander, aeronautical engineering duty officer, but I'm a reservist, so I've been doing that for about 24 years, and it is hard to do both of these. But as a reservist, your minimum requirement is 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks out of the year, unless you're deployed. And last year, I was involuntary deployed for a year to both Afghanistan and Gitmo in Cuba. I'd have to say I've been very lucky and fortunate. I've had many good opportunities. Been very fortunate to be here at NASA and the Goddard Space Flight Center. And yeah, I would say the trajectory of my career has sort of followed my biggest dreams and hopes. And frankly, I've overachieved where I thought I was going to be, which has been a delight. One of the things I really enjoy a lot is helping people in their career, helping people see the possibilities, understand the talents, understand their contributions, and some of the next steps in their career. This is a hard thing for people to figure out, if they've done something for a while, what their next step might be. So I really enjoy working with people and helping young people in their careers see the possibilities across the horizon. No one's perfect. I've had my share of mistakes. I've made plenty of them. But the thing is to not let those mistakes take you down. The thing is to learn from them. I frequently ask my supervisor how I did on something. Could I have done something better? And I'm not afraid of the answer. Don't be afraid of the answer. Even if it's critical, it's okay. Wherever you choose your career, whether it is in space, which is my passion, and science, it doesn't matter. But what the important thing is that you be resilient, that you be focused, that you be continuing to knock at that door of opportunity. Don't let someone tell you you can't do it or that it's not for you. If you love doing it, you keep knocking at the door, and one day someone opens it, and you get your foot in, and you get your opportunity.
I have to tell you, Marianne filmed this video for us about a week after she got back from Afghanistan and Gitmo. She is quite the resilient woman. She just, whatever she had to do, she did it, even if it meant that she had just come back from serving our nation. She came and did it. And so the reason I showed this video is, as a young career professional myself, every time I watch it, and I've watched it about 8 times, I feel empowered by Marianne. I mean, I really, when she tells me that nobody can tell me I can't do it, I really believe her. Like, I really think, you know what, Marianne, you're right. I can do this. So that's why I chose to show that video. But I have one more I'd like to leave you with, and it is through our Aspire to Inspire program, and it is targeted right towards that group of people right there, our middle school girls. It's a Twitter-based program, and it's the whole point of Aspire to Inspire was to try to define STEM to the younger generation. Often people don't really know what engineering is, and I'll be honest, sometimes I have a hard time describing it myself, although now that I'm older, looking back, I have an easier time with it. But when I was younger, I didn't really get it. I just said I wanted to be an engineer because a teacher told me I should, but I didn't really know what it was. And so the point of this program is to try to define that for you and try to tell you what it is. So this is their overview video. We have specific videos in science, technology, engineering, and math. But the reason I want to show this video is it asks a couple of questions, and I hope that when those questions come up, you leave this session as we end it, and you leave this event thinking about your answer to those questions. And when the video concludes, we will go into our Q&A session. Thank you.
Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
I get to be a part of an unprecedented microgravity laboratory, a big, super cool laboratory with all these different facilities, and these experiments, they get to float. It's the only place on Earth you can do experiments with gravity being gone.
I get to train the astronauts that go to the space station, and I also get to work in mission control. When you go to school to become an engineer, you're taught to think critically, you're taught to solve problems, and you're taught to think outside the box to get a job done. And all of those skills I have to use here at my job on a daily basis.
When I was in middle school, IT was not what it is today. Not by a landslide. We studied DOS in our 6th grade computer science classes.
I didn't really know about engineering or science, technology. I didn't know about STEM fields. I think engineering is really solving problems, figuring out ways to solve problems. Engineering is inventing and coming up with new ideas.
I would say that I loved math. I loved everything about math, but I just couldn't see exactly how I would use math in my everyday life once I grew up and got a job. And it's actually one of the foundations to what I do today. We have to figure out what is the right amount of breathing air to give an astronaut while they're in the spacesuit. If we miscalculate or we do our math incorrectly, then the astronaut will not get enough breathing air.
There are days where my job is to go out and spend the entire day outside in a field, either holding a button so that if the robot does something bad, I can make it stop, or testing out my software, or helping other colleagues test out their software. So it's a great day when you actually get to spend your day outside testing things out that you developed and they worked and everything was successful.
It's such an exciting thing to think about, is the idea of humans living and breathing in an environment completely independent of Earth, in some place that's 6 months away.
Scientists these days are some of the most diverse people I've seen. I think the old stereotype of the white lab coat and the pocket protector and the glasses is probably out. In fact, I know some pretty cool women with stiletto heels who are scientists, and I think they're fantastic.
Right now we have a space station. We've been to the moon. Well, we need to set up a base on the moon. We need to set up a base on Mars. And so we always think ahead to the next step. Even though we may not have people there yet, we're trying to bridge that gap to get us to those places.
As a woman, you can do anything you put your heart to. Like, don't let anyone limit you, don't let anyone hold you back. You should always strive for everything that you want. If you want something, go out there and get it. Don't let anyone hold you back, or anything hold you back. You are someone, and you are somebody that can make a big difference in this world, and you just have to go out there and do it.
I also love the idea that I'm working on a human mission to Mars. The work that I do will have helped put a human on another planet.
Technology can be intimidating, but what I can say is there's a technology for everybody. There's something.
We're doing things that nobody's ever done before. We're developing brand new things that have never, before 2 years ago, didn't exist. And we're making them better and making them into something that we can actually use. And that's really cool.
Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean that it can't. Just because there aren't more women sitting in that room doesn't mean that there never will be. And that you have the power to change that.
Take advantage of every opportunity that you can. Make sure that you do what makes you happy and that you pick something that you are truly interested in. You just have to take a step back and look at the big picture and realize that at the end of the day, you're working for something that's really great.
Thank you all. That video that you just saw that's on the Women at NASA website was developed by our early career development class, leadership development class. They took this on, the group at Johnson Space Center, as a project by themselves. They came up with the idea. They went and talked to several women at Johnson Space Center, and they orchestrated and developed that all on their own, men and women. And I think that just shows the incredible energy and power around this topic. Tears come to my eyes every time I see it. So we want to take questions. We want to take your questions and questions from our Twitter folks as well. So please feel free. Step up. I think the handheld mics are around, and we want your questions. Okay, let's start over here.
So I have a question, basically for some of the students and recent graduates that I had just spoken to not too long ago that may not have been majoring or actually initially had, I guess, developed skills that would be directly applicable to STEM. But since having been here and listening to all of the different things, and most importantly, I think seeing the work that, I guess it's the statistical work that has been shared today with the communications and wanting to I guess, improve the outreach and ways that maybe communication could be used in that. Are there any internship opportunities for people that have backgrounds in journalism, mass communications, networking, something that they can do that would be directly related to NASA or Girl Scouts or any of the National Academy of Engineering, something that they can do again in science and writing, so that they can also too help increase the number of women in STEM and aerospace?
Let's see, Kitty, you want to start?
Sure. Well, I think if for students who are interested in outreach and communication, there are a couple different opportunities. I think that there are, if you're based in Washington, D.C., because I know not everyone is, there are a lot of science and engineering associations and societies that have opportunities for both digital and web, as well as print communication. The National Academies does have a relationship with some of the Washington, D.C. high schools where we do have students work for the summer, and some of them do work we have a science museum, we have a communications office, so there will be some opportunities there. And then there's a lot of opportunities with other publications. Discover Magazine, Discover, I know has some opportunities for that, Science Magazine. So if anyone's interested, I'd be more than glad to put them into touch with them. I think that's a terrific point, that we need people who have skills to help us engage with other communities.
And I'll add just a little bit, just tagging on to what she said. I think one of the biggest things that we forget is every company and every agency needs people who can communicate those thoughts. So even NASA has an Office of Communications. So generally speaking, if that's your interest or if that's a student's interest out there, if you go and research the companies or the company or companies that you want to work for, most likely they'll have a need. Whether or not they're hiring at that time is up to the point in time, but at least they'll have a need for communications.
And I just want to add that at Girl Scouts, we've had lots of program partnerships, and we feel like that's a very, very strong relationship in a way that we can bring STEM to Girl Scouts, because Girl Scouts doesn't advertise being STEM experts, but when we have these great partnerships with universities in the area, or Society of Women Engineers, or different engineering or STEM organizations in the area of the local councils that do Girl Scouting, that's how STEM gets down to the level of the girls. And what we do need, so I'm going to kind of answer your question in a different way, and make a call for what we need at Girl Scouts is that we need volunteers, the people who are working directly with girls, to be people in STEM, to be people who are maybe college majors, women who are in college who have a little extra time on their hands and want to work with Girl Scouts. And we need to bring in that kind of expertise into Girl Scouting so that this huge 3 million girls across the country can start seeing these kinds of opportunities. So.
And where are all of these agencies located?
The councils, there's 112 councils all across the country that offer Girl Scouting, and our headquarters are in New York City, also in DC. So if you go to our website, www.girlscouts.org, if you just punch in your zip code, you can find where the nearest council is, and there's probably a council or some kind of Girl Scouting nearby. So thanks.
And let me put in a plug. NASA has a one-stop shopping initiative for our internships. You can go to www.intern.nasa.gov, and you can apply one application for all of our different internship programs. You'd sort of check the box on the different ones that you're interested in. So please do go and intern at NASA. Additional questions?
Hello. I wanted to ask, I know Ms. Moody was talking about how you conducted a survey about girls who are interested in STEM and who are not, but still have a lot of curiosity. Mm-hmm. What do you think we should do in terms of helping? Because I know that I want to do medicine, but I also like engineering and different stuff in the STEM fields. So are there any ways that could help the girls merge the two together?
Sure. Sure, great question. And so a lot of audiences always question why medicine isn't really a part of STEM, and the interesting thing and the important thing to come out of this is that girls are really aspiring toward medical careers. Which means that they're saying, I can do the work. Medical school is not easy, and it's not easier than STEM careers. It's just as hard, if not harder. So girls are aspiring to these very high-level medical careers, and we think the reason why they're aspiring to that is because they see them in the media. They see ER and all the different, there's a million TV shows where there are doctors. There are plenty of others, you guys know more than I do. Everyone goes to see a doctor. Everyone has a pediatrician and a doctor for every single different area, right? So girls are exposed to doctors more so than engineers. Girls do not go see an engineer for anything, right? Unless their father is or their parents are, or a family member. So the exposure, again, I cannot underscore that more. And if you don't have the right people to talk to, if your science teacher isn't answering your question or your parents don't really know, work with them so you can find the answers. There are tons of great websites that we've talked about today. Get on the web. If you don't have a computer at home, go to your school library, go to your local library, get on the web. That is the single best tool that you can go to get information. Google engineering. What is engineering? When I did the study, I had to do that. What is engineering? I had to get a good grasp on that myself. So just ask the questions. Ask questions to adults, to experts in your field, and community members. If they don't know the answers, work together and find the answers.
I have one thing I'd like to add to that answer. It's almost a personal anecdote, but my brother-in-law studied civil engineering and then pursued medicine. So one thing I think is a misconception is in order to go into medicine, you have to be pre-med in college, and that is not true. You have to take an MCAT, and anybody can take the MCAT. You can study for the MCAT to get into medical school. What you need is a solid education, solid bachelor's in engineering, or, I mean, there are people who are English majors that go on to be in medicine. So you can really major in almost anything you want and still pursue a career in medicine. And by far, a career in medicine, we are not saying it's a bad thing. That's a great thing to pursue. But there are other things that you can look into, and you can still be interested in STEM and have a medical career as well. And a lot of clinicians also do research and are scientists as well. They have MD, PhDs as well.
And maybe, Mamta, you could talk a little bit about biomedical engineering and what exactly that is.
Yes. So biomedical engineering really was born out of a desire to be able to apply engineering to the medical field. And it's a field that's about 10 to 15 years old now, and it's really blossoming. It's becoming the most popular major at most universities. It's growing faster than they can handle. And the types of things that we do, for instance, the doctors use, has anybody ever had a parent or known somebody who had a heart attack and had to have a stent placed in their heart to open it back up? That stent has to be engineered. In fact, that's something that we studied in one of our classes, was how you make those stents. How do you make it so that it actually opens the valve? How do you make it so the body doesn't reject it because it's foreign? There's a lot of engineering principles to allowing the blood to flow through that stent properly. Let's see, almost any device that contact lenses, how many of you wear contacts? Those are engineered to fit into the body and to actually give you perfect vision once it's actually in you. So almost anything you can think of that's a device that helps the body requires an engineer behind it. And biomedical engineers have grown from the aerospace, and a lot of the first biomedical engineers were aerospace and mechanical engineering backgrounds, and they applied those principles of fluid dynamics and structures over to medical devices. And then that's how you could also be involved in the medical field. So that's a really good point, Rebecca.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Hi, I'm Faith Slaughter. I go to the Howard Middle School. And she was speaking about medical fields and engineering, but I wanted to know more about, I have interest in like fashion, and then there's singing, but then I like math, and so in science, and I'm wondering, how do I combine those completely different fields?
Kitty.
Sure. We actually get those questions on Ask an Engineer. So I think what you're saying is you like design, you like music, and you like math. And what you will find actually that you can have many passions. Some passions may be something that becomes more of what your career or vocation is. But there is a huge creativity design portion to most engineering fields and jobs. So what I would say is pursue both of them. Make sure you're taking the right mathematics. Enjoy what you do with design. I once got asked by a young student, do women engineers wear nail polish? We do.
We do.
Maybe not all of us, but some of us do. And many of us like design. Many of us like different things. So I think what I would say is you don't have to make a choice now. Enjoy your interests. Enjoy what makes you happy, what you enjoy, what you like to do. But at the same time, make sure that when you're pursuing, when you're thinking about what your career path may be, that you're taking the mathematics and the other courses that you could do, so you could potentially be a designer who's doing digital design. There's a lot more happening digitally that you need that training. With music, I have a son who spent a summer at Carnegie Mellon. They do a lot of music composition that's audio engineering. It's all done technology on the computer. So it's amazing how much technology has actually kind of come into many different parts of our life that we see as more artistic. So it's perfectly logical to combine those two.
And spacesuits. Fashion engineering, designing spacesuits. You might think it's a stretch, but it's not. There's actually a wonderful engineer at MIT, and she designs spacesuits for the future. And she actually demonstrates them, or she puts them on herself, and then she puts them out and puts them out at fashion shows. They are fab. So there's a lot you can do. So let me ask you all, who inspired you all to go into what you do today? Can you talk a little bit about your heroes or your inspiration? Kamala.
Sure. I would say there's a couple answers to this question. One would be my father. My father's from a different country. He was born and raised in Africa, and he moved to New York City to follow a photography dream, and that's where he met my mother, who's from rural Pennsylvania, so two very different backgrounds. But my father did not graduate college. The highest he got in school was equivalent of high school, the end of high school, and he's just always been my biggest advocate. He's always been my biggest fan. He's encouraged me in every walk of life. He's encouraged me. It was his idea for me to go into gymnastics at age 4, and it will lead to my other, support is my gymnastics coach, who I was lucky enough to have since the age of 4 up until my late 20s. I was the abnormal gymnast who continued gymnastics into way over the hill. Anyone who's familiar with gymnastics, 16 is like the peak, and then you kind of dive down after that. But we know that statistics aren't going to define us. But I have had some very strong role models in my life. My gymnastics coach is my other role model, who again just always encouraged me to go after your dreams, to not let anyone stop you, to really just work very, very hard at what you're doing and not to give up.
Kitty. So I have to echo probably some of the conversations that were held in some of the panels. Definitely for me it was both my parents, but particularly my mother. My parents were married at that time in their mid-30s, which in the 1950s was very considered that they were, I guess you would say, over the hill. And my mom went back to work. I'm the eldest of 5, and my mom went back to work immediately after all of my brothers were born. So she was a working mom in the 1950s, 1960s, and loved her work. And so I really learned and grew up in a family where my father worked for the Department of Defense. Army-Navy game was the biggest thing in town. But I think what I learned was I knew more about what my mom did because she loved her job. It wasn't necessarily that my dad didn't love it, but you could see that she loved it. And I think that really carried through was no matter what I did, I wanted to find something that, when I'm thinking about in the morning, it's not like I have to go to work. It's like I have to go to work. And then the second thing I think that's really interesting is that how many of you have had a teacher who has made you better? And it's really, maybe sometimes you felt somewhat unfairly picked on you because maybe you were just like given what you could do, but not all that you could do. So you were maybe skating a little bit, maybe slacking a little bit. Have you ever had that? I definitely had that in high school. I had a couple teachers that just, we know you can do better. And as much as I really resented it at the time, I think it really made me be more honest about that. And I think that those teachers had a huge impact on me as well.
Thank you. Mamta.
For me, it would also be two different sets. My parents, and they came from nothing to make sure I came from something. So they were my biggest supporters. And I'm the middle of five, but they made darn sure that all five of us were going to be successful in our lives. So I definitely would have to say that they were my biggest supporters. But my aerospace dream, was my sister, my second oldest sister, Dee. And she, at the age of 7 or 8, said she was going to be an astronaut. So I was going to be an astronaut. And she soon grew out of it, as many young kids do, but I didn't. And at a time while I was growing up, there was at some point the media was talking about how the aerospace field wasn't doing as well, and maybe it had met its time and it was going to go down, and I was really worried if I should go into it. And she said, "Do you like it?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, then you should do it." And that was it. And I said, "Okay, if you say so, then I will." But she turned it around on me and made me answer the question, and that was really the moment where I decided, okay, I'm going to go into this field.
Thank you. We have time for one final question. Who wants to have the last word? Oh, come on, I know there's a good question out there.
Good afternoon. My name is Kristen Roby. I am a recent graduate from Howard University, and I have been very inspired by the conversations that we've had all day. So my question is, I know that you guys, in a lot of cases, are the only or are the first to do a lot of things. So I just want to know, in the workplace, what kind of adversities have you been up against, and how have you overcome them?
Well, I work for the Girl Scouts, so we're about 80% women. So I can't really speak to that. But I do have to say that just because we're all primarily women, which is very abnormal in a workplace, doesn't mean that that it's just free floating and everything is just fun and games. There's competition there. There's healthy competition, and I think no matter what, even if you're not competing against the predominantly male culture that a lot of other people in careers are competing against, you're competing against people who, no matter what, want to rise to the top, want to get that promotion, want to get to that next level. So I think you just have to just remind yourself why you are where you are. I knew I wanted to do research. I graduated with a PhD in developmental psychology, and I knew I wanted to do research that made a difference in the world, right? That's what we all want to do. And I wanted to work for an organization that helps girls, that does something in the community. And so you keep your eye on the prize. You keep your eye on what you want to be, what you see yourself to be, what you hoped you would be. And as long as you're waking up and feeling good about what you do, then you just keep striving forward to that next step, or you just keep going.
So I think what's interesting is I probably, like many people in this audience, have had some very strong male mentors as well as female mentors. And so I actually would, the way I would respond is that in any place you work, you're going to have people that you get along with better than others. And you're going to have people that push your buttons and for some reason you push theirs. And the two things I've learned that have helped me best, humor definitely helps, keeping a perspective of humor. And then the second thing is really trying sometimes to see it through their perspective. There have been times when there have been challenges. I think for me, what I have learned, and partially, a lot of it was working when I worked in the Senate Science, Commerce, Transportation Committee, was that you have to realize that if you care about something, sometimes you're going to step on people's toes, but the way you articulate that passion and engage. So from my perspective, it's been more thinking about, let's focus on what's important, and let's try to keep it in the perspective of working. And I work with a lot of men, and I have, but I've had some great male mentors, and I've had a lot of men who have supported me and have helped me in my career as well. So I think it's something we have to see both men and women as being part of the solution.
Yes, thank you. Mamta.
And for me, it was, or more recently, I've noticed that sometimes the biggest hurdle I have to overcome is my age. Sometimes I feel that being young in a career, and especially at headquarters where everyone has been there for like 20, 30 years, and I can't claim that. I was probably in middle school at that time.
Watch it.
Luckily, she's nice. But I can't claim that. So sometimes I feel that maybe I'm not taken as seriously because of my age. But I'll tell you exactly how I deal with that. And it's something I learned from my 9th grade English teacher, and she always said this to us: your reputation will precede you. And I honestly believe, I don't say anything about it, I don't argue, I don't get upset, I just do what I do, and I just hope that somebody likes it, and that person will be the person who will probably be my biggest champion. And I also have to echo, Rebecca's actually the first female I've worked for. I've always had male bosses, and I see them not as my boss, but as my mentors, because they were and they still are. They still help me. They still write recommendations for me. Some of my biggest supporters in my career.
I just have one final thought. I know we're running out of time, but don't be so worried about what others think of you. I think that's one thing that girls have that boys don't have. Boys don't really seem to care what others think, and let's adopt that from boys. Let's take that example, and not, I think, as women too, in the workplace, we're so afraid of being labeled the bitch, right? We're so afraid of being labeled that I'm sorry, I felt weird saying that. We're so worried about the label, we're so worried about what others think. Let's just do our job, do what we were hired to do what we decided to go to school for, and do our job and feel good about that. Don't worry so much. You might have enemies, good for them if they don't like you. That's their problem. Do what you're supposed to do, and that's it, and feel good about it.
Thank you all so much. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. And check out our websites and the reports. Lots of fabulous inspirational information. We'll take a break until 2:30. Please come back at 2:30 for our White House speaker and for NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden. Thank you.
That was very nice. It was very nice. Thank you so much. That was so great.